So Tom Homan was hired or will be hired as the border czar under the President-elect Trump administration. What are your general feelings and reaction to that announcement?
Well, I'm not familiar with the gentleman. I have read just a little bit about him, not too much on his background. But, I've been looking at some of the appointments, and of course, he's one of them in this arena of immigration. Of course, President Trump has the right to, select the folks that he wants to. Um, Listening to some of the rhetoric that's out there, from just different venues or whatever, newspapers, email. I get a lot of email, I get a lot of texts and stuff, and a lot of folks are concerned. I spent 40 years in the federal government. I'm a retired federal executive. I'm familiar with the system, how it works. He's coming in as a federal employee, so there are some guardrails there, but we're concerned because of the rhetoric. But we have a constitution, and there's federal laws, and there's statutes, and they're going to have to follow that. So, we're willing to work with the administration, any administration that comes in, because we're nonpartisan. We're open to working with them, and we're open to do the same thing with this gentleman. Uh, I will have to give them an opportunity to see what their plan is. And you read a lot of stuff that's out there, and there was a lot of stuff out there when Trump came in the first time, and he said he was going to do all kinds of stuff. But because we do have laws, we do have a constitution, we just have to work with that. I'm not that concerned myself. There are a lot of folks with different organizations. I mean, we are concerned, and we're not going to sit back and just kind of wait to see what the plan is. We've kind of read some about it. So, as a nonprofit, civil rights, nonpartisan organization, we will do our homework. We're looking at some of the statements that are coming out, and we'll prepare, and we'll defend the folks that need to be defended. So, but we will work with them, and we understand where they're coming from. Okay.
What is the sentiment among you guys when you see and hear things like the mass deportations of it all and pack your bags is what he said in a recent interview, I believe it was 60 Minutes or with Fox and Friends. Democratic governors need to get the hell out of the way. A lot of those different statements that Tom has made over the last couple days is that putting a sense of fear into a lot of Latin American people or
Well, I feel that it is. Now we are, as we're preparing for the new administration to come in. In fact, those are some of the things that I'm doing this week while I'm here in Washington. I'm having some meetings with some of our board members just to kind of get their feedback. We have 6 regional VPs all the way from the West Coast, Northwest, all the way to East Coast, Massachusetts, different areas. So I am getting feedback from them this week to kind of see what the feelings are out there. But just generally, I do get a lot of email, I do get a lot of text, and folks, this rhetoric has folks kind of scared up as to, how do they plan to do it? They got to follow the law. And when you hear the rhetoric about, deporting millions and all that, and I've been looking, I've been reading a paper. And if you go out there and you look at the American Immigration Council, they're an organization that does a lot of research in this area. And I was just looking at the numbers in regards to dollars, what it would take, to round up. And the numbers are out there. They're saying that 2.3 million people came in the last couple of years over a 17-month period, a lot of Venezuelans and Haitians and stuff like that. But when you look at the numbers and you look at the numbers of folks that have been here, for the last 30 years, they're talking about 11 million. And you talk about DACA, those type of students that are here, you're talking about 14, 15 million people. And even though they're talking big time that they're going to do mass deportations, it's almost impossible. And I was looking at this study when Trump was here, and even under Trump or even under Obama, even under Biden, some of those deportations, you talk about 500,000 people a year, and you're talking about that because of the dollars that are involved, the staff from ICE or whatever, they just don't have the capacity to do stuff like that. So even though they talk a big game and they're hoping that people self-deport, and folks are kind of scared out there. Some of my officers are calling me and saying, "Hey, there's folks that are calling us, and they're asking us, what are we going to do, or what do we do?" And we've got papers, and even though we haven't had a hearing and stuff like that, and we just tell them to kind of, we're going to be putting some guidance out. We're working on that right now with two or three other organizations. We're uniting not only with Hispanics, but also other minority organizations. And we're putting a plan together so we can let people know as to what their rights are. That's the main thing. No matter who you are, if you're here and you're a green card, or you've got a permit to be here, we need to give them the information that they need so they can kind of self-protect. But we're telling them for now, be aware of, and we really don't know what the tactics are going to be, but we do know that there's a constitution. We know there's laws, and they've got to abide by that, regardless. And I don't know when they're going to confirm this, gentleman, or if it's going to be a done during a recess. They're talking about all kinds of stuff. But as LULAC, we will continue to defend the rights of the any person that comes to us that needs help. We continue to do that, and we will also put a plan together to help these folks. A lot of it's education.
There's also a lot of concern among people that families in general will be deported, and maybe not just families, but parents will be deported, leaving children behind. Um, One study shows that there's roughly 4 million U.S. citizen children that live with an undocumented parent right now. Is that a concern among you guys as well?
Well, it is a concern because it did happen on his first term, where they started doing that as folks were coming in, and there was separation of families, and still yet, I haven't read. I don't know if there's any kind of final report, but my understanding is that there's still children that were separated, and they still have not been able to reunite it with their parents. But I'm concerned about that. I did hear Mr. Homan's comments on TV where he says, "Well, you are going to have families like that. That it could be that the parents are not citizens. The kids may be citizens, but because the parents are non-citizens, they're here illegally, they're going to be deported." And the comment that I heard him make the other day is that, well, we'll just have to deport the whole family. Hopefully they'll all deport, but we don't want to separate them, but it's up to the family. So we're curious to see what happens in that area. But we are probably going to get involved in making sure that those families understand what their rights are. And if they have mixed families, what they call mixed families, non-citizen, citizen, we need to make sure that they understand what their rights are and the kind of hearings that they might be able to be entitled to. So that's work that we have to do, but a lot of it's going to be education. But we don't know exactly what tactics are going to be used, either to scare them or hopefully get them to self-deport or whatever. We just don't know at this point. But there's a lot of talk about that. But this time around, we are, as an organization, we're going to be out there helping these families to make sure they understand what their rights are, and making sure that if they're going to be taking action like that, they don't know exactly what their rights are and what they're entitled to. That's the main thing.
Last question for you. What is just the overall level of concern as we get ready to go into a new administration with this kind of hardline zero tolerance tactic and stance on immigration?
We are concerned based on the rhetoric, where we're waiting to see what their game plan is going to be. But at the same time, as we're waiting for that game plan that they're going to put out there, we're also preparing too. We have some of the best attorneys in the country that are helping us to make sure that we put this plan together, make sure that as we're putting information together for these families that may be affected, we want to make sure that they're educated. And then LULAC, we're noted for filing lawsuits, and we will continue to do that on their behalf if we need to. We'll be working with the different states. There's different, laws that are Arizona may have a different one than Texas, or Florida may be different, but we're getting educated in all those areas to make sure that we understand the state laws that they have right now, also to understanding the federal laws that are in place. And those are the most important, because deportation and all that is under federal law. even though they may be using, folks from certain police departments and stuff like that. Some are working with them, some are not. But the main thing is that we understand what might take place so we can help those families to make sure that they feel that someone is actually looking out for them and that their rights are being defended. That's the main thing.